Hi, my name is Taryn Smith. I'm here at Jerry's Music Shop in South Hadley, Massachusetts, here today to talk to you about proper maintenance of your trumpet. In order for you to avoid expensive repairs, it's very important that you take good care of the instrument. There's going to be some things that you want to do more frequently than others, and I'm going to outline all of that for you today. We're going to start with things that you want to do the most frequently. Let's begin with finding water in the instrument. As you're playing, science dictates that when something warm meets something cold, condensation will form. Now, we don't want that condensation to be continually built up in the instrument because it's going to create a gurgling sound. So in order to release that water, that condensation, there's a few spots that we can do that. The first spot that you're going to find is from the main tuning slide, coming from this main lead pipe, there's a water key right here. What you'll do is simply put your finger on it, put your mouth over the mouthpiece and just gently blow, and release any condensation that is built up in there. As far as frequency of how often to do that, you're going to want to do that several times when you're playing. You never want it to get to a point where you hear a gurgling sound in the instrument because that's going to affect the quality of sound, and we don't want to hear that. So what I would suggest is during potentially every rest that you have for an extended period of time, measures, maybe there's 3 measures of rest, just do that just very quickly and then you'll always avoid that gurgling sound. That's the first point of contact that your condensation will form, and notice how this is down bottom. Gravity's going to work for us here. Now if you're still hearing gurgling sound, it's possible that you have gotten the condensation caught in the valve slides. The first one that you're going to check for is the 3rd valve slide. Now, you're likely going to have a 3rd valve water key on the slide, just like this one. So what you would do is you would push down the 3rd valve, you would find the water key, open it, and blow through to release that water. On this model horn, I have a pull that I just pull the slide out and then I would empty water that way. Either or is fine, it works the same way. You also have the 1st valve slide. This removes, make sure you push down the 1st valve, either twist in the mouthpiece or take it out completely. Release any excess water in the slide itself and then replace it. You also have the 2nd valve slide, which is small, but water and condensation still can form in here. What you would want to do is push down that 2nd valve, release it, empty out any water, and then by that time, if you've gone through all of those, you should have found all of the water. If you still can't find the water that you're hearing gurgling, you can take your instrument, tip it upside down, blow very hard. Now, by doing this with the valves, what you're doing is you're getting everything out and you're building it up here, okay? Tip it upside down, and then anything that's past the valves should come out the bell. You probably shouldn't have to do that as long as you're emptying at this water key. The next thing you're going to have to do very frequently is oiling the valves. Now, it's important to oil the valves every few days or as needed because the valves are the moving part in your instrument that's going to change the notes. To oil the valves, what I like to do is I like to hold the trumpet in my left hand. I like to already have the valve oil cap removed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew the valve caps. Notice I am not unscrewing it from the top of the valves, but the caps themselves. I'm going to unscrew all 3 of these all at the same time. If you prefer to oil each valve individually, you may absolutely do that. But this is a quick and easy, fast way to do this. Take the valves out about halfway. You're going to take your valve oil. You're going to place a drop of oil on each valve on this side at the top. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You can let the valves drop down into place. Get the valves locked into the place. Now, you have valve guides That's going to make the valve stay aligned with where the holes belong, because the holes line up with these tubes. So you're going to have it click into place. You should hear that sound, and then screw it back in. Now, if you experience this and you find that air is not going through your instrument when you play, it's because just one of the valves is turned, or it's possible that if you've removed them all at the same time, you may have put them in the wrong place. So if you experience air not going through your instrument, your trumpet is not broken, don't worry. It is simply that the valves are in the wrong casings, or that they're just twisted. All the valves are numbered, 1, 2, 3, from the closest to the furthest. Keep that in mind. The next thing you're also going to need to learn how to do, and this might happen pretty frequently, but not as frequently as oiling the valves, is greasing your slides and keeping your slides in moving order. The first one that you're going to need to make sure is nice and lubricated is your main tuning slide. So I've already removed this main tuning slide from this trumpet. What you do is you take your slide grease. Now this has to be a thicker type of grease because we don't want it to just fall out. We want it to only move when we want it to. So just take a little on your finger, put it on the inner slide, work it in just a little bit. We don't need too much. Wipe the excess off of your finger so you don't get it on your clothes. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the bottom one in only, and then just kind of work it around, take it out. Put the top one in only, work it around, and then I'm going to put both of them in. Okay, I'm going to push it all the way in, and then remove any of the excess globs that might form when all of it gets pushed together. Okay, and then your slide is in working order, and you can place it where you need to for good intonation. The other two are going to be your first and third valve slides. So I've already removed this valve slide. Because we need to have these slides moving a little bit more freely for intonation purposes, as we've discussed with our C sharp and our D, we need to have this be a little bit thinner. So if you have a type of oil, such as trombone slide oil, this has worked really well for me and I enjoy using that, or any other type of thinner oil would work great. You can do that type of thin oil and apply it, or if you don't have that, you can simply use some tuning slide grease, just a little bit, and then thin it out with valve oil. And that will allow it to move more freely and quickly so that you can tune your instrument as those notes need to be. So once you apply just a little bit of that oil, do the same thing, the bottom slide only, top slide only, and then both. Now, when we're putting both of them back in together, you should make sure you put down the third valve or the first valve, depending on which one you're doing. And then you would repeat the same exact thing for the first valve slide as well. The second valve slide is not as important to keep thinly lubricated because we don't move this quickly. So you would just lubricate this slide with the same grease that you would use your tuning slide. We don't want it falling out. Those are the three things that you're going to want to do pretty frequently. Next, you're going to want to give your trumpet a bath every so often, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. It's important to do that so that we can just clean all the insides of the tubes of the trumpet, and it gives us a reason also just to get off any excess lubrication and just give it a fresh start. Okay, so the trumpet was designed for every single part of the trumpet to come apart. So what you'll just do is remove all of the valves, okay? And I'm not going to remove all the valves for this, but you would just do the same thing as you would do for the oiling of the valves. Remove them all. Remove the bottom valve caps. You would remove all of your slides. All of the slides, take it out. Okay, now we have a few tools here. we have a brush, a valve casing brush. We have a snake for the longer and skinnier piping that we have. We have a polishing cloth. And you can also use just a regular toothbrush to do some cleaning of the outside of the instrument, or you can use some of these for the cleaning of some nooks and crannies of the instrument. Once you've taken all of the slides and the valves out, you're going to want to use warm soapy water. You can use a mild dish detergent like Dawn works really well, and warm water, not hot water. Submerge the entire trumpet as it's taken apart in the water, with all of the pieces also at the bottom of the tub. For me personally, I like to lay a towel out on the bottom of the tub just to prevent against dings, because the porcelain of the tub and the metal could cause some damage if you accidentally hit it. The towel just creates a little bit more protection. What you're going to do is simply allow the trumpet to soak, allow the parts to soak in there for maybe 5-10 minutes. Then you're going to take your snake, and through all of the thinner parts of the instrument, you're going to run the snake through. Now you're going to want to take the snake and also rinse it in warm water as well as you get all the little particles out, because we don't want to keep on putting those particles in. Using your snake with your main tuning slide, you're going to insert the snake into one end and then just push it all the way through. You can drag it all the way through if you'd like, or you can go back the other way. Just make sure you're rinsing out the edges. Do this a few times so that you can get anything that's loose in there free, and also rinse it back out. You can place it back into the tub. Okay, I want you to do that for all of the slides that are already taken apart. Now for these skinnier ones, you're not going to be able to get this snake all the way through here, and I don't suggest you force it. So simply just take one end through. Now mind you, this has been soaking for a little while, so everything's pretty loose. And then just pull it back out, rinse it, do it to the other end, rinse it, and repeat a few times. Okay. Now once you've snaked out all of the parts, including the most important, because this is the first experience besides the mouthpiece, and we'll get to that in a second, this main lead pipe is really important. So you're going to want to snake this out a few times as well. Okay? You can just do it like this, or you can drag it all the way through, your personal preference. Okay? Just make sure you rinse everything. Okay? Now once everything is snaked out, you're also going to want to take your mouthpiece and your mouthpiece brush and clean this out really well too. It's important actually that you do this mouthpiece brush cleaning relatively frequently, potentially even once a week. You should just keep this in your case and then just go to a sink and some warm soapy water and then just brush it out. If you look down the mouthpiece through the hole, it's a bad sign if you see anything that is not just the smooth metal. You really want to get rid of those little particles that might build up, because that's going to really affect your tone. Give it that nice smooth sound experience right from the start. Okay, and then just rinse that out. Once you've rinsed everything, you've dried everything to the best of your ability. After you take your trumpet out, you could just kind of shake it free of any excess water. You can dry all the parts with a cloth, and then you're going to want to re-grease everything and re-oil everything as needed. One thing to note is that once you do this more often, you're going to really remember and be able to know where the parts go. I would suggest you always look at the valve numbers so that you put them in properly. And you shouldn't have a hard time with the valves, because the valve slides, because they're certain sizes, and that should be pretty self-explanatory. But just pay attention to how you take it apart, and then it's just going to go back together the same exact way. Make sure that you do give your trumpet a bath about 3 or 4 times every year. We want to make sure it's able to be clean of any particles and well lubricated. Also, just as a reminder, make sure you put your instrument together after it's been completely dried. We don't want any other damages to happen to the instrument or cause for expensive repair. Maintain your instrument well, take good care of it, and you will have a great working trumpet for as long as you continue to play the trumpet.